Normal labs do not always mean normal function. If you've ever been told everything's fine, your labs are normal, well, you've been sitting there feeling crummy and a whole host of symptoms that are unexplainable, you're not alone. I have been there too, and plenty of my clients are there or have been there as well, unfortunately. If you feel me, this video is for you. Because one of the most frustrating and honestly invalidating experiences I think any patient can go through is this exact situation, right? You finally work up the courage to get your lab work done. You go to see a professional, a provider, a doctor, a healthcare professional, right? You wait for the results. You muster up the energy to do all this, to figure out why you're having the symptoms you're having, why you don't feel like your health is optimized. And then you're told there's nothing wrong with you. But your body is probably clearly telling a different story, right? Yeah. I want to say this right up front. Feeling bad with normal test results does not mean it's all in your head. And in case no one's ever told you that, let me be the first to deliver that message. So if we haven't met yet, hi. I'm Adele with Wellness with Adele Cole, and I'm a registered nurse, a holistic health coach, and I work a lot with people that have complex and or chronic symptoms or conditions, especially Lyme disease. That's one of my specialties, and longstanding health issues like that. I have reviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of labs in my health coaching business, but also in my nursing career, right? I've explained labs. I've relied on labs. I've been the patient getting the extensive lab workup myself. I have a huge history with Lyme disease. If you didn't know my story, I've got other videos and blog posts and all the things out there about that too. But I also know the limitations of labs. So let me grab my notes so I stay on track with us today. But today I want to walk through what labs are really good at, because they're not useless. They're a tool. And also what labs are kind of not designed to catch, okay? They're not the only tool. They're just a piece of the puzzle, if you will. I also want to talk about why so many people feel dismissed after their normal lab results and where other tools might come in handy, such as bioenergetic testing, which is something that I am very passionate about and a service that I also offer. I'm not here to try to sell you something. I'm here to try to explain, though, how you do have options, okay, beyond just normal labs telling you that nothing's wrong, okay? Because that's not okay. This isn't about throwing labs out. This isn't about only going one direction instead of lab work. This isn't about vilifying healthcare professionals or doctors or providers or any kind of tool that may be out there that may be valid to use. And my disclaimer is this isn't even about providing medical advice, diagnoses, cures. This is about empowering you with education to make your best and informed healthcare decisions to optimize your wellness and develop your health resiliency so you can meet your goals and live your best life. The main goal being hopefully to try to save you time, energy, and money along the way, because that is what brings me the greatest joy. Let's work smarter, not harder on your health, right? Okay. So let's start with the good news. What are labs good for? Not absolutely nothing. All right. Labs are excellent at detecting some things. Okay. We can detect acute diseases here, advanced pathology, clear deficiencies, or dangerous imbalances, right? Labs can save lives. I've seen it in the ICU world. I was a critical care nurse, so I saw the sickest of the sick, and I saw labs save lives. Labs are also good for things that require immediate medical intervention, like I said, along with life-saving measures, right? You can make informed decisions more easily and effectively with certain lab values on board in certain situations, okay? Things labs are incredibly useful for: ruling out emergencies. Do we have an emergency here or not? Diagnosing disease conditions once it crosses a certain threshold. Monitoring known conditions to track data over time. There's value in that. Incredible value in that. And it helps compile that data, for lack of a better word, to keep your system's functioning optimally, especially when you have something ongoing that you need to track or monitor over time, right? You need labs. We need them in the medical community. I'm not anti-labs at all. From a nursing perspective, labs are essential safety tools in my book, okay? We need them. I respect them. I use them. I'm not against them, okay? But here's the key point. Most people aren't necessarily told, unless you've learned it along the way, or you did get the memo along the way. And that is, labs are designed to detect disease. They're not designed to detect early dysfunction necessarily. It's not to say they can't ever, but labs are there for more specific purposes as a specific type of tool. Okay. Let me find my notes so I stay on track with us today. All right. So there's a big difference. Speaking about dysfunction and disease, there's a big difference between diagnosable disease and functional imbalance. Disease is when the body has crossed a line, right? Like a threshold. Function is what's happening before the line is crossed. Most of the time, if not almost all of the time, you don't just magically develop a disease that you've never had maybe symptoms prior to developing it, or symptoms of something happening, or signs, clues from our body that something was off before the disease itself hits. You can have blood sugar that's normal but unstable. You can have thyroid numbers that are within range but don't match how you feel. Ranges don't tell us everything. You can have inflammation that hasn't moved, even though you maybe have done everything that you can do to try to move the number on the inflammation. Why is it still present? You can have hormone patterns that are off rhythm, but not off range. You can have a nervous system that's stuck in stress mode. And we have to factor in that lab work, when it's drawn from our blood, that's only capturing a picture in that moment of what's going on. Case in point, Lyme disease. Tons and tons of inaccurate tests are run because the blood testing for Lyme disease is grossly unreliable. Even the best quality testing we have out there has a high failure rate of capturing the Lyme in that sample. There's a number of reasons for that. That's a whole separate video, but that is one of many conditions and disease processes that is not fully diagnosable or fully capturable simply by lab work, right? It's more of a picture than just the lab results, because you can have negative lab results for tick-borne illnesses, Lyme being one of them, and still have the disease. The diagnosis is not fully based off of lab tests alone in a Lyme literate provider world. None of these things may flag a red box on a lab report, right? They may not shoot up the flames of like, something's wrong here. These can all be nuanced symptoms that just don't flip the switch on a lab to show that there is something major going on. But your body feels it. You know when you're inflamed. You probably know when your blood sugars are out of whack. You know if you don't feel well and might be a candidate for having Lyme disease. You know it. You feel it. This is where people start doubting themselves, though, when the labs don't match how they're feeling. Because paperwork says normal, right? But your lived experience can say otherwise. I think we've all been there. I did a poll on Instagram this week about it, and it was 100% response rate that people had experienced this. In other words, yes, I have experienced lab work is normal, but I'm not okay, and I have had problems even when the labs have been normal. No one answered, no, never happened to me on that poll. So both can be true at the same time. Your paperwork can say it's normal, everything's normal, and your lived experience can say otherwise. Both things can exist simultaneously. So here's what I see happen over and over again. Okay, someone is exhausted, brain foggy, not feeling the energy they should be feeling for their age and stage of life, let's say, for their health goals, for what they've been working on in their healing. And they might feel inflamed, anxious too. hormonally out of whack, maybe in pain, achy, in pain, trouble moving, not bouncing back, not sleep is not restful. Food and water are not nourishing, right? Resting isn't cutting it. They might finally get lab work done. The labs come back fine. And the unspoken message becomes, well, if the tests are normal, there's nothing we can do. Sometimes the message becomes, maybe it's a mental health issue and you should get that checked out. And of course, we should all be working on our mental health. But throwing that out there as the catch-all diagnosis for when we can't explain why labs are normal and someone feels crummy is also a form of medical gaslighting. This is where people get stuck, okay? Excuse my itch a moment. It's not because you're broken or something's wrong with you mentally. Maybe even that there's not something massively wrong physically. You might just need a little tweak to be optimized again. It's because the system here isn't built to look at function, resilience, or adaptation. The lab work isn't built for that viewpoint. And I want to be very clear here. Most providers aren't dismissing you on purpose. This isn't an anti-doctor spiel. They're approaching things the way they were trained to approach them. We're working with a model that is asking, is there a disease? No? Okay, then, you're fine. We're not working with a model that is asking, is the body actually coping well? Is this person resilient in their health? These are 2 or 3 very different questions to be asking than, is there a disease? So let me say this plainly, okay? Your experience still matters even when it's not showing up on paper. Your symptoms are information. I've been talking at least for the last week, if not 2 weeks now, about that, the topic of symptoms. They can be so irritating and so distressing and discouraging. But remember, friends, we got to learn to live with symptoms because they are information. Our body is communicating. When we have symptoms, we can praise our body for telling us what it needs to tell us, even if we don't fully understand it right away, even if we have to do some digging and some searching to figure it all out. It's still good for our body to exhibit symptoms. That's how we were designed. That's part of the perfect design of humanity, okay? Not that humans are perfect, but they were designed for ultimate perfection, I believe. And that factors into what I do and how I do it. So just because something hasn't crossed a diagnostic threshold doesn't mean it's insignificant. I wanted to make sure to say that. Just because something doesn't cross a diagnostic threshold doesn't mean it's insignificant. In fact, I often tell clients, catching imbalance before it becomes disease is one of the smartest things you can do. So this isn't about chasing problems. It's about building resiliency, which is what I'm here for. I'm all about. So if you are interested in building more health resiliency, you have options. And that's what I'm about. That's why I'm here as a health coach. One of my favorite options for that is bioenergetic testing, which is another tool, but it's a tool that cannot be duplicated in any way out in the medical world. It's a form of galvanic skin response testing, which is what lie detector testing uses. So it's an FDA-approved modality for looking at the body's stressors, not needs. We don't need stressors. It looks at the stressors on the body, like germs or chemicals or food stressors or hormonal stressors, viruses, bacteria, even emotional stressors on the body we can look at, which is so cool to be able to have access to that. We can look at that and we can assess through the software the proper, as the software says, balancers or ways to balance holistically those bodies' areas of imbalance. So it is one of my preferred tools in conjunction with lab work, alongside of lab work. It doesn't replace medical care or medical labs. It's just different. It's a different tool option that actually looks at things on a deeper, more individualized, more personal level without just simply looking at lab ranges. So it's a great tool alongside whatever else might also be necessary It's also a tool that can be used alone for assessing and kind of integrating health goals and figuring out next steps and deciding how to work smarter, not harder on your health, but also how to develop health resiliency. It's my favorite tool so far in life for this. And it's why I offer this tool as part of my services to clients, because it's available so that you can have access to it, right? And it utilizes my coaching as well as part of it, so that you're never left alone with information you don't understand or know how to utilize, okay? So just know that exists. I would love for you to try it out, check it out, but also just talk to me about it. So make sure you check out the link in the description of this video if you want to learn more about what bioenergetic testing might look like, what coaching can look like from a truly holistic perspective that doesn't dismiss lab work, but also puts it where it belongs, in the place it belongs as a single tool to functionality and to understanding our human condition. Okay? I thank you for joining me today. And as always, cheers to your best, most resilient healing journey.